Okay, so take your piece of covering film, cut it so, this is a little big, but so it'll go over the wingtip. With room to spare in the front and the back. Then we'll take our backing off. Now's a good time to get a new razor blade so it's nice and sharp when we want to trim the film. And we'll separate the film from the backing. If you can't do it with a razor blade, because sometimes it's super stubborn, what you can do is get two pieces of tape. Put a piece of tape on each edge, on each side of the film, and peel the tape apart, and that'll separate the backing. So center your film on the wingtip, and take your covering iron. What we'll do is just tack the film to the wingtip. Get the camera up a bit. Okay, get that out of the way. So now what we'll do is just tack it all the way along the wingtip. Okay, so now I'm going to trim the film down a bit because it is rather oversized. I cut it too big. You can see this new razor blade just glides through the film. Flip it over, same deal. A little close there, but we'll get over it. Then I'll trim it short again. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the iron and we're going to start at the back and just push the film over. So film will stretch as well as shrink when it gets hot. So we're going to take advantage of the fact that it stretches when we push it over to follow the camper. So take your iron, and the goal is to just tack it onto the ribs. Don't tack it to the trailing edge or anything because we're going to cut it down once we're done. Just start little bit by bit doing it over that radius that we sanded into the wingtip rib. And especially in the front where it curves pretty severely, do it 1/4 of an inch at a time. Like the whole, I did trailing edge to the wing spar along this one, just because that's pretty much a straight line where this curve gets much more severe. So we're just going to do it little bit by little bit. And then once we have it pretty much good on that main curve, we'll tack it to the main trailing edge, or that second wing rib. And then we'll just trim it shorter. Now we have a relatively wrinkle-free, try turning the lamp off, there we go, relatively wrinkle-free curve. And back on so I can see. We're going to repeat on the other side. Again, just start at one end, work your way across. Then what we're going to do, when we've done this, is we're going to take the razor blade and just run it along the inside of the rib and just finish trimming it up. I did it roughly along here, but I should got to get the rest. And then once it comes off the rib, because as you can see here, like there's some trailing edge, we're just going to keep running the razor blade straight back. Same thing on this side. Finish sticking the film to all of the ribs. run the razor blade so it's just hugging the rib. It might be more useful to start out away from the rib and then pull the razor blade in to get a nice close finish. Or nice close cut. And just run the razor blade on top of the wing spar, you won't hurt it. As long as you're not really digging it in. And again, run the razor blade straight back down the trailing edge. And then, a little bit on the leading edge, you can see how it overlapped. What I'm going to do is just trim it relatively flush to the leading edge. So there is a little gap, but what we're going to do when we cover the wing, it'll cover up this gap. It's not the end of the world. Keep it free of wrinkles. One more time, go back over. We're going to pay attention to the trailing edge here in a second. So we're going to do the same thing for the trailing edge. We're just going to cut it flush. And then when we cover the wing top and bottom, that's when it'll become pretty. Just clean up. Again, nice sharp razor blade, just glides through the film. And that is one complete covered wingtip. So do the same on the other side. That's what I'm going to do. And I'll be right back and we're going to talk about how we cover the bottom of the wing. Okay, so continuing onwards. We've got each wingtip covered, so now it's time to cover the bottom part. So where your sheeting is, that's what we're going to cover first. So take your piece of film, I've already cut mine to size. You want an overhang of like at least a ½ inch on all sides. You're going to lay it down on top. Make sure you have that, make sure you have that overhang that you want. And the way I cover wings is I tack down the trailing edge, tack down the leading edge, tack down the wingtips, trim it all, then shrink. I never touch the ribs. We are going to have to work around the sheeting where the servos exit, and where the servo wires and LED wire exits right here. But apart from that, the iron is never going to touch any ribs or any supporting structure from that. So what I'll do is I'll start with the trailing edge, get my wing to lay down relatively flat. Make sure we have a decent bit of overlap everywhere. And then we're going to take the tip of the iron and tack down the trailing edge. If you had a trim iron, that would be a good use. Or this would be a good use for one. Just because you're only trying to tack down like the trailing edge a little more than 1/8 of an inch of wood tacked to it. Because of the way the wing ribs are attached, it can look kind of funny if you tack down everything, because then your wing ribs show up through the covering, even though your wing ribs aren't actually attached. So you just try to attach the rear like a little more than 1/8 of an inch as you go along the length. It doesn't have to be perfect. Once you shrink down, it'll cover up a lot of issues. Just work your way across. If you have to, you can pull the monocoat tight if it's moving on you. But as you can see, it is laying down relatively well. And we'll just keep going along. Sure we're tacking down what we want and no more. Actually gonna flip it back this way so I can see it a bit easier. Turn my iron up a little bit. It's not sticking down quite as much as I'd like. Sticking down as well as I'd like. There we go. Now we've made it all the way to the tip. I'm gonna come back across, make sure it's all nice and even. Get rid of any wrinkles that may have showed up. Oftentimes, you can just iron them out and just lift the tip of the iron to get rid of wrinkles. Assuming they aren't massive, heat will just take them right out, because the monocoat will shrink. So now we have the trailing edge tacked full span. We're going to move up and do the leading edge. Now this can be a bit tricky because monocoat doesn't always stick super well to carbon, but it'll work pretty good. So flatten it all out, try to get rid of all the wrinkles that are there. If you want, you can trim off some of the overlap along the wingtips. That's what I'm going to do real quick. Again, nice sharp razor blade. Or in this case, an X-Acto blade. So yeah, just trying to kind of flatten it out. You can have some wrinkles, it's not the end of the world with monocoat. It shrinks pretty good. What you're aiming to do is to tack down the film to the carbon, and you're trying to make the iron go just past horizontal. I'm sorry if I've been off camera. Just past horizontal because you want some overlap. Just pull it relatively decently tight. Again, if you have any small wrinkles that show up, you can often just get rid of them just by ironing the very tip. Mine's actually fallen off. Obviously haven't been using enough pressure. So yeah, just go along, tip to tip. We'll go all the way to the tip. Just scratched my film, and it turns out I have something on my iron. Okay. Monocoat does not stick incredibly well, which is why you want to carbon, which is why you want to wrap the monocoat along a fair bit of the carbon, not just the very leading edge. But you can see not very flat. I'm going to peel up the bit that I stuck down. That's the nice bit about heat repositional adhesive. So I have a big buckle, so I'm going to redo part of this. This is part of wing covering. I'm also going to work around the trailing edge as well to get rid of this big buckle. Camera up, maybe you can see a bit more. I'm actually going to peel up some of my trailing edge and pull some of that big buckle bit out. Still going to turn up the iron a little bit more. My coat's pretty high temperature. I'm not sure if I'm running really high enough. Okay, so now we've got it mostly down. We'll move to the wingtips. Again, just tack down the wingtips. Get rid of a bit of my film that got stuck to the iron. The thing I've found that seems to work okay for cleaning the bottom of your iron if you get any junk on it is this is just some denatured alcohol, or you can use rubbing alcohol. Just wipe it down. With the iron being so hot, it doesn't last very long, but it does work pretty good. Okay, so continuing onwards, just start and pull our iron towards the tip. And all we're trying to do right now is tack it. So you don't have to make it follow the curve of the tip just yet. You're just trying to tack it. You don't have to worry too much about these big wrinkles. Not the end of the world just yet. So it'll be quite surprising what the heat gun will do. Now, one thing I'm not super happy about is I accidentally tacked some of the ribs, so you can see there's two little black dots. I'm going to see if I can peel away some of the film. If I have anything, maybe a piece of wire, because that will just show up because I am using white film. If it was another color, it probably wouldn't matter much. But it doesn't seem to want to be. There we go. Yeah, it's stuck to the film, the color now. It's not the end of the world. That's why we don't really want to touch the wing ribs. This is because the color will come through. So we're tacked, leading edge, trailing edge, wingtips. So now we can think about trimming away some of the excess. So for the leading edge, I'm going to wrap film around a little farther until it's pointed down at a decent angle. Then I'm going to take a sharp razor blade, stick it into the film, hold the film at an angle, and pull the blade towards me. And you're trying to find that angle where the blade's going to just miss hitting the ribs. And if it's sharp enough, as you can see, it just glides right through. do the same with the bit that we missed when we started. Now this doesn't have to be perfect or beautifully straight because this is going to get put underneath the top sheet of covering. So it can be jagged, whatever. Not the end of the world. And just really make sure it's stuck down really well to the piece of carbon. Just keep going. And then, well, no, we're not going to do that. So next up is we're going to cover along the trailing edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the iron and we're going to push the film over the edge like that. And this is something you can do a big section at a time. It's a flat, straight thing, and you can use the bottom part of your iron that's nice and straight. And just go along. Make sure it is well and truly stuck down how you want it. And it's nice and sharp everywhere. Okay, now I'm going to get another razor blade because I wasn't quite happy with how the last one went through the film. The film does seem to dull blades quite quickly. And I'm going to do the same thing. Here you have to be careful to not actually accidentally cut into the trailing edge, but you can, if you like, hold the blade a 1/16 of an inch or so above the trailing edge and just fold over that extra bit of film. But again, it's just a case of trying to hold the blade at the same height, same angle, so it stays nice and consistent when you look at it. And I got pretty close there. That new blade was a big help. So now we have an edge. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there is one. And we'll take the iron and fold it over. Try not to touch the iron in the process. Again, you can just do big swaths of it at a time. So now you can see there's a nice bit of overhang. Last thing to do is cut the wingtip bit short. We're just looking for the blade to be about a 1/16 of an inch offset, like that. And we're just going to wrap around that little extra bit around the tip. And again, nice sharp blade is what you want. Because that bit will be on the outside, it won't have covering put on top of it later. So if you can avoid having it be jagged, that would be pretty cool. So just take it. You might have to like pull the covering tight. Try to make it so you guys can see it. And just, once you have a width started, if it's about right, be between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch or so, just pull the blade through at the same angle to keep the same spacing. So I did okay. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And we'll take it from the top, and again, you just pull it down and around. If you have a little bit at the very front where that carbon tube is, you can cut the monocoat into little slices to let it really conform around, because that is a very small radius to deal with and it can be hard to get it to lay down flat without cutting. So otherwise you get a wrinkle like I just did. I was thinking I could get away with it, but obviously not. Okay. And we'll just keep going around, pulling the film relatively tight. I have a little bit there, I'll just trim off. And that is one covered and wrapped tip. You can see it's all really wrinkly, but that'll come right out with the heat gun. So now we'll do the same thing for the opposite wingtip. We'll set the blade up to cut out like 3/32 of an inch away. Just trim away the excess bit from the top. And then again, start the blade the right distance away. Just get it as straight as you can. It wasn't super consistent at the beginning, so I'm just going to trim that up and wrap it around. And this film-to-film bond is going to be very strong. It shouldn't peel up or anything. Then if you have a little like bit poking out, I don't know if that'll focus, but right here where the two corners intersect, there's something that pokes out. So what I'm going to do is take a razor blade right down the center of that fold, just cut, and then we can wrap it and make it look pretty. Okay, so now we have to attach the film around here, here, and here. So what I do is, because the iron's so hot, just to protect myself from burning myself or anything like that, is I'll take a piece of scrap from the part sheet, get a square or a shape size that I want, set it down on top of the bit that I'm trying to stick the covering to, and that's what I can press the piece of wood to the covering with when I run the iron over it, because otherwise the wood's so thin it just bends away and doesn't stick very well to the covering. So this is a case of just using the very tip of the iron. You can pull the covering tight to see exactly where you're trying to stick the covering. And just run the iron right around where you want it. You probably won't be able to see, but it is adhered. You can't really see, but right about here. Kind of tell there's a flat spot for your wrinkles. So we'll do the same for the opposite side. Take the piece of scrap out, slide it under the wood, or down on top of the wood, flip it over, and we'll just use the tip of the iron again to tack it down. And this stops the covering lifting away when we cut out that hole for the servo arm to poke through. And then we'll do that one more time for that center hole. And that's where our servo leads and stuff are going to come out. So we'll slide that bit of wood in around the servo hole. Just rub the tip of the iron around it. Make it all stick. And now we can shrink the film. And this is where all the ugly wrinkles are going to go away. Now you might want to try with your heat gun, figure out what temperature the plastic shrinks at, because what you don't want to do is melt the plastic, melt the hole in the plastic. This is a pretty serious heat gun. I have it set pretty high, so let that heat up for a minute. Okay. Now we've heated it up, we're just going to start moving it smoothly, consistently across the wing. And you can see a lot of the big wrinkles are coming right out. So just keep the gun moving so you don't linger in one place for too long, melt anything. And everything will just come right out. Over where the ribs and the spars are, you might have to cover the iron over a little longer to get some of the wrinkles out, but they should all come out. Just keep going. You can see right here, my film wasn't attached very well. It peeled away because the shrinking force of the film is so strong. So we're going to try to repair that, salvage it, see if we can pull out some of the wrinkles that we made. And we can use the iron to shrink the film, just for like spots. But thankfully, this is the bottom of the wing, so no one will see it. What I'm going to do real quick is I had a piece of film on my iron that sat and the adhesive melted and it got the iron. Bottom of the iron ugly. You can see the white spot. It doesn't come off super easily when the iron's hot, of course, but if you do it enough, it will come off. But like you can see, it's boiling the alcohol off as we go. That's clean enough. And this will kind of bring out, I don't know if it will here, the trailing edge. Now it's kind of uneven, so if you want, now is your time to touch up the trailing edge, make it stick where you want it to, get it in a nice straight line, anything like that. Okay, I'm happy with that. I got a wrinkle over in this tip, so just hold the iron over it, see if we can get it out. If we can't, we'll use the heat gun. I'm impatient like that. Okay. Got one back here. Wrinkles will appear as the film cools back down, relaxes, that kind of thing. You can see, just melted a hole. So I'm going to be right back after I've patched that. Okay, so I just did the patch, but that really shows how important it is to make sure things are well stuck to this carbon leading edge. It's going to take a bit. That shows some of the importance of having it wrap over more contact area, because Monocoat doesn't stick super well to the carbon, but it does make it worthwhile in terms of crash resistance and stiffness. So now we've covered the bottom, so we're going to cut out these holes and we're going to install the servos. Just take an X-Acto knife, sharp. I think this one's sharp enough. Maybe not. Just cut around that outside perimeter. Short little like sawing motions would be about right. And then we'll do the center oval one. Be careful if you have LEDs installed that you're not cutting through or scoring the wires. Just something to be mindful of. Heard you can use soldering irons to open up these holes. I don't know if that's true, so do it at your own risk. It will probably gum up your iron, but if you have a decent cleaning setup, it shouldn't be the end of the world. That's that. So now, take your servos, unscrew the arms. What I'll do right now is I'm going to get my receiver transmitter ready. I'm going to have to rebind, so I'll be right back. And what we're going to do is we're just going to center the servos, make sure trims are at 0, so the servos are nice and straight for when we install them in the wing. Because once they're in the wing, we're not going to be able to get to them unless we cut out this bay of covering. So you want to make sure your servos are good, they don't have any chatter, they're smooth, all that stuff. Be right back. Okay, so let's take our battery pack, plug our servos into our receiver. Turn everything on. Make sure my throttle is at 0. And again. Be advisable to do this without your propeller on. So you can see the servo's straight, that one's not, so we're just going to pop it off. Okay, now they're both straight, so we'll unplug both servos. Get the receiver out of the way, the transmitter out of the way, and then we'll take the screws off both of them, take the horns off, and then we're gonna insert the servos into their respective mounts. Again, it's too tight of a fit to go in. Just sand your servos down a bit because these are sized to fit both 3.7 and 5 gram servos, so there is a bit of a size difference between the two. just a couple thousandths. Take the horn off of that one. So now we have them both in. To make them fit, if you're running LEDs, you are going to have to trim off the rear tab. I've also trimmed off the front tab. These are from an older build, and they were both off when I began. But no matter how close you get them, if you don't sand them, they'll reach like a natural stop point with a bit of extra tab left over. So I'm going to CA these in place. I'm going to use medium CA, or thick CA. Yeah, thick CA. Be careful, do not use thin. Try to steer away from medium, because you don't want glue wicking in through the servo case and gluing your servos up. So I'm just going to put a fillet on each servo. You should actually put these fillets on the outside of the servo. So if a servo fails, you can just grab it and pull instead of having to strip out your center sheeting as well. So both servos are installed. So take the servo horn, insert it through your sheeting. Don't trim your servo horns all the way down like these are. Again, these are from an old build. You want them to protrude a bit, and these just barely work. So insert it through, put them on the servo, make sure they're at the right angle, like it isn't tipped forward or backwards. Push it on, and then screw the horn in. It would be an advantage to use a skinnier screwdriver than this one, because this inner hits the, oh come on, it hits the wing rib, so you can't get it really low enough angle. So one thing you can do, take a pair of fine pliers or tweezers, grab the screw, and then use it to hold the screw to stop it from dropping, to get the screw started. And of course now you can see I've got it going. There's one. We'll do the same for the other side. Take a horn, bring it through, hook it on, done. And screw it in. So now this is where we can think about installing our top sheeting. So now we'll put our servo plugs through that hole in the center. That's what that hole's there for. That. Got a JST connector for my LEDs to deal with too. And then find your other piece of sheeting from your part sheet. Two other pieces of sheeting, one long one, one short one. Long one, of course, goes in the back. You can dry fit it if you like. I just broke off one of the tabs. These tabs are fragile, but they just help keep the covering supported, so there aren't noticeable divots. That's just part of the fun of a design like this. Things get tiny. So if that fits, sand a nice sharp taper, or not a sharp taper, a shallow taper, onto the rear so it fares into the wing nicely. And take your CA. Make sure it all lines up as you want. Real quick. Okay. Get rid of that little lip. CA along here. And then I'll apply CA along the inside. And then along the very trailing edge. Push it all the way forward. Mine isn't quite lined up. I didn't do that very well. Got a razor blade and I'll cut it free. There we go. Now we'll be able to make it line up a bit better. That's the advantage of this thick CA, is you have a bit of working time to do stuff like this. Okay. Pour sheeting along the ribs. Flatten it down at the rear. Now this is another good time. Make sure you didn't get CA in anything. So we'll do that real quick. Just reconfirm. I believe I'm safe, but certainly doesn't hurt. Both of our servos are good. So now we get to cover the top of the wing. Or, not quite. So, last piece of sheeting is going to go up front. Don't bother sanding it just yet. If you have LEDs up here, get them all laid down flat. Get glue where you need your glue. And then a little bit along here. And just again, work it down to the very front. For save time, spray it with a bit of accelerator, and I'll hold it. Again, sanding block, and ferret in the edge. And this sheeting serves to make the leading edge stronger, or the center section stronger. And also a bearing or a supporting surface for your two rubber bands that are going to hold your wing on, so they're not just bearing all their weight directly onto the covering film. Now I have that paired in decently. I'll do one last quick check, make sure all of my LEDs are working, because again, once this covering's on, that's it. So all my LEDs are working like they're supposed to. I know both servos are. So I'll get my new piece covering. Again, have to fiddle a little bit, separate the two layers. You get yet another razor blade to separate them. These are cheap Lowe's razor blades, so they're not particularly brilliant. You can get in. Some corners don't work as well as other corners. There we go. And it'll be the same process as before. Tack your trailing edge down, then your leading edge, then your tips. Trim to size. Just either wingtips over, your trailing edge over, have a bit of overlap on your leading edge, make sure the seam faces the rear, and that'll be pretty much it for the wing build. So I'll be back once I've done that.
Hi, I'm Josh Finn. This is Hope. We are J&H Aerospace.
If you like this video, hit the like button.
Also, how about subscribe to our channel and check out jhaerospace.com for new free flight products and all of the tooling that you'll need to build them.
Thanks for watching.